I've been in my old house for a little over a year now, and a lot has happened. I've been slowly updating the basics like electrical and plumbing while bringing in some color and fun with a nod to the Art Deco stylings it was built with. About 6 months ago, the big project of the kitchen and the upstairs bathroom began. Full gut. And then some. I actually had a trench in my kitchen at one point, but it's finally finished. I've shown the bare bones and the design process previously, and now it's time for the actual reveal and the review, or at least what I learned along the way. You never really realize just how important some things are until you go without them for a while, or just get asked to make a decision. Do you know how many versions of brass finishes there are? Seriously, too many. This project ended up being so massive because the house really needed it. Plumbing and electrical was mostly original to the 1940s, and both the kitchen and one upstairs bathroom needed more than just a coat of paint. They're stacked on top of each other, and the much easier access to moving pipes is actually through the ceiling below. So it all had to be at the same time, which means I was relying on my basement bathroom for everything the entire time. I did do a mini renovation down there to at least brighten it up a bit in paint and lights, as well as adding a utility-sized sink instead of a glass bowl on a very corroded cabinet, because that was not going to handle washing dishes. Genuinely, I don't even know if the fan in there goes anywhere, but everything in there is just rusty and corroded. Eventually, I am going to paint the entire basement with all of the leftover colors from the rest of the house, but that's a next year thing, maybe. There's a lot of projects to finish first, and fortunately, a lot of sourcing of supplies, which means a lot of wandering into weird areas of the internet, which is why I'm so glad the sponsor for today is Incogni. Incogni tracks down and removes your personal data from over 420 harmful sites. In just a few months, they found almost 800 places where my private information has been picked up by data brokers and sold over and over again. Addresses, phone numbers, employers, financial info, even shopping habits have all been just handed around. As of now, more than 700 of those have been successfully taken down, and it's averaging around 8 days for resolution. And if I come across anything beyond their list of known problems, they have custom removals as well. With their unlimited family and family unlimited plans, you just submit a link where your information is being exposed, and they'll submit a request for you. It's not just about stopping those annoying fake calls and texts, though I have noticed a significant difference in how many scams actually come through. It really doesn't take much to piece together enough information to have your identity stolen or accounts opened under your info. It doesn't even take being chronically online. Just a few purchases or new accounts, and there's enough. Incogni actually has an estimated time saved ticker on your dashboard, and mine is hoo-hey-hey over anything I could have handled on my own. Everything from your contacts to health, employment, demographics, and even family connections, whether you like them or not, is regularly picked up and sold. So take back your personal data with Incogni. Go to incogni.com/NicoleRudolph and use code NicoleRudolph to get 60% off an annual plan. On to the big stuff. If you haven't seen the other videos, I'm working with a local design and construction company for the project, Lauren Wood Builders. The majority of this is well outside of my knowledge and capabilities, though there were a few things that I took on. For example, the only things that really remain from the previous kitchen are the woodwork and windows, which, yes, I did learn how to completely dismantle, strip, and reglaze these things as part of my work while they were disassembled. That was a steep learning curve, but there are no longer shedding pieces. I still have 12 more to do later around the rest of the house, so wish me luck. It took me about a month on the first one and only a week on the third, at least, so things are improving. All of the doors and trim were also removed and restored as well. My mother took most of that work to her own garage since we were running out of room here. The doors had to go down to the basement. There's just no way to fit that in the car. Everything else, down to the drywall and insulation, is new, which was needed. While the structure is sound, thank goodness, the amount of damage that replacing pipes and all the electrical causes meant it would have been a mess to keep the old drywall and plaster system, which wasn't in the best of shape. I have far more outlets and lights now, as well as pipes that aren't full of rust. The new drywall was blended in wherever possible, however. The archway obviously stayed. The tile floor was also replaced. It was from around 1980, as was most of the kitchen. It's now a simpler terracotta that isn't nearly as textured as the previous one, so hopefully I can keep this much cleaner, which having a grout that isn't off-white should help a lot with that as well. Turns out the previous one was, which I wouldn't have guessed until we removed one of the cabinets. I thought it was great. I also didn't even notice until the tiles arrived at the house that it's exactly the same as the tiles around the fireplace. So that was a fun little extra. It also brought the floor down to level with the hardwood in the other rooms so I could lose the big metal transitions and actually close the door to the dining room. But that filled in the entire kitchen and entry before the cabinets started moving in. We worked with another local company, Stoll's Woodworking, to have all of the cabinets custom made for both kitchen and bathroom. I wanted something that was a little in that generally historic range without being a specific time period. Somewhat arts and crafts in its simplicity and color scheme, but with a little bit of that 1920s modern brought in. The answer was to utilize the right colors and woods, keeping the door style simple with just a few extra curves on the shelves and trim. The bottom cabinets are hickory wood, the top are painted in the color Bancha from Farrow and Ball, and the counter is a quartz with a matte finish to feel like soapstone without the cost or care. I didn't want something that was too busy to really compete in the space. It's nearly the same layout as before, with the sink and the stove in their original places, but the fridge shifted slightly to the right, so it's not in the doorway. The dishwasher moved to the left of the sink, so it's no longer fighting with the oven door, and there's a bench under the window instead of a wine bar and high counter seating. I was determined to get a small table in here so I can actually sit while working in the space and have my meals here. I don't have a dining room set up yet, so that's all I got for right now. That ended up being one of my marketplace antique finds, which is technically a library table, but a perfect fit, and the legs are actually angled for you to scoot in for bench seating, and it has a drawer, which means that it's the perfect place for that junk drawer that we all have in our kitchen. But even though nothing has dramatically changed, there is way more storage. The bench has 3 drawers underneath, and there's an appliance garage in the corner with both ends of the upper cabinets having more depth. To the left of the fridge is a pantry, which I did not have before. All of the shelves on the exterior areas are a great way to expand pantry space and storage of servingware I don't really get to use that often, but is frankly too pretty to hide away. The space above the fridge is also basically a black hole because it's just so deep. I fully expect to put something up there and not find it again until I move in like 30 years. What I learned very quickly was that storage space is only a little dependent on square footage. Instead, it's things like having wide drawers instead of 2 sets, or the internal structures not making just tons of dead space. I'm pretty sure I was losing 6 inches between each one of my old drawers, which were super narrow and pretty much useless by comparison. Instead, I managed to fit all of my dishes in one of the drawers that's a little deeper. It does make me wonder about the old Hoosier cabinets and specialty furniture that filled kitchens before built-in cabinets were a thing. Less adjustability in terms of what is meant to go where, but if everything is built with a specific function in mind, that could add up to crazy amounts of storage potential, and fewer instances of things like drawers being too shallow for a standard ladle, because we've all dealt with that. Obviously, the point of Any kitchen is to be functional. I do cook a lot, so that's pretty essential. We took advantage of the bare bones room and added an actual vent to the outside for the range, which this thing is amazingly quiet, and the light is not a horrid yellowed plastic haze, so I'm deeming this the biggest change in my daily function. I was thoroughly determined for the first time in my life to not have a microwave directly over the range. I don't use it that much, so I'd rather just tuck it over in a different corner. Lighting, though, was also a really big upgrade from the one central light and the old tubes with more yellowed plastic above the sink. That was it. For a kitchen, that's kind of rough. It took some fidgeting with where to fit light switches. The old one was actually on this wall all the way inside of the kitchen, and none were near any of the doorways. Like, why? Now I can turn on the small pot lights from both doors, which are great for work lights. Over by the dining room is the switch for the much softer single overhead light. On the far wall are the switches for the pendant over the sink and the under cabinet lights. Both of the feature lights and the one in the side entry are from Old Brick Lighting, which I cannot recommend enough. Lots of great styles. It's technically 3 different styles because of the size needs, but they really feel like they go together. At this point, I'm so spoiled for lighting options in here that I've actually had to start adding options to the other rooms to keep up. I went from this kitchen into the living room after they installed the lights and immediately went, this will not do, and been on the search for more lights ever since. But in terms of functionality, the sink is actually a big farmhouse style, not because it's trendy, but because I prefer one massive space that I can fit pans into easily. The fridge moving over just that little bit makes it so much easier to get into, and it sets up a nice flow between all of the different areas and the little counter spots for all the activities. On either side of the range are some specific requests that I had made for a shelf that could manage the olive oil and salt for cooking, and a brass rod for hanging oven mitts and stuff for baking. Tea and coffee in the corner where I can sit down first thing in the morning and have a really calm, leisurely start. Plenty of work room, space for drying dishes, no weird dance around the dishwasher to unload it. It's working out great. There's also quite a few special features throughout. Under the sink, the cabinets have an extra bit of curve in the corners and large round handles. We originally looked for a brass option that would have a circular motif, very similar to the fireplace, but nothing was quite right, and frankly, it all kind of stood out too much. Carving the design into the wood later might happen, but I'm still going to sit on that for a while because I'm just not really sure it needs it. Over the range, I found 4 antique tiles to add to the backsplash, a little pull of the darker tones in the terracotta floor. Now that things have finally settled for a couple of weeks, I've been sewing, decorating, organizing, and generally trying to hunt down little bits of functional decor for the space. I somehow gave myself like 11 shelves to fill. I'm not there yet, but it's the perfect chance to pull out some of my antique vases and add in some new pottery. The curtains, cushion, and pillow are actually shower curtains from West Elm that I cut up because the patterns and colors are just perfect for in here, and sometimes that is way cheaper than buying a nice printed heavy cotton by the yard. Definitely was this time. So overall, the space is functioning really well. The light in this room, I had forgotten just how gorgeous everything coming in through the windows is. And just being able to transition this space throughout the day through different functions means that I'm actually spending time in this kitchen rather than just coming in here to clean things up or cook really fast. I actually want to sit in here and work and spend time with friends. So I am very much looking forward to years upon years of this kitchen actually being the heart of this home, because it really wasn't meant for that before. Now, onto the bathroom, which is the much more dramatic change of the 2 rooms. Originally, it was fairly small, only this space, which would have been fine if it didn't have the worst layout possible, with a tiny toilet nook, basically like that much space, and useless space next to the sink. And once you are replacing pipes and moving anything around, it's already going to be expensive. So it might as well be worth it. I don't need two hall closets, and the main bedroom one, as I basically did a whole video on, was a weird waste of space. Like, not a walk-in closet, but took up as much space as one. It's terrible. And didn't have any flat walls in the bedroom to put a bed against, where it wasn't also blocking a window. The lack of closet will be fixed in the future, but for now, the bathroom basically doubled in size, which gives a ton of space to be creative. Again, window and door were saved from the brink of death after decades of extremely hot steam sessions and no cleaning, leaving the worst thick blackened film on them. So gross. There's a fan in here now that doesn't just vent into the attic, so hopefully moisture won't be that much of a problem again. The tub was also saved and refinished. For this room, I went with full-out peach 1930s. The archway in the middle is the perfect nod to the rest of the house, and really looks like it's always been there. The math on the curve for it was actually based off of the other archways in the house, so it's not perfect, but it's the same as the rest. The floor stayed simple with classic black and cream basket weave tiles. The tub area, however, got the full color experience in peach with black trim. There's little cubbies for toiletries were a requirement, but they look really nice trimmed out, as was storage space in general. In the little shower room is a deep cabinet for towels and other supplies, reachable from the bath or the toilet, so no more forgetting to swap razor blades or grab toilet paper. There's literally a little side door just to the side of the toilet to reach that easily, so you don't have to even reach around. In the sink area, there are two tall cabinets for everything else. I have not managed to fill these completely. There's even 3 shelves for the wigs that I need to sell soon. But that just means there's enough space for 2 or 3 people. I did choose a single sink though, because that would have meant losing half the storage, and all for a sink that I don't really need. Same thing goes with a large countertop. I don't really need that if everything has an easy access shelf to disappear onto. Also, the knobs are little brass tassels, and I cannot express the joy these bring me every time I have to open a door. All of the hardware in here was an endeavor. We started with one style, but the plumbing team let us know they'd been having issues with the quality from that brand. After back and forth with options for weeks, it finally came down to having to buy a more expensive option than I originally planned for. But there were a few adjustments to help with that. Got rid of the hand shower, that sort of thing. But I'd rather have something that won't fail a few years in and that I don't hate the style of, because why are modern faucets just so ugly? I did immediately swap in a shower head with a filter because the difference over the last few months showering in the basement with my hair and skin was stark, and I cannot keep doing that. Seriously, not sponsored on that part, just highly recommend it, no matter what the age of your pipes is. Lighting is a bit simpler in here with just the little pots over the shower space, 2 spots from Old Brick Lighting that I have pointed at the middle wall and are ideal nighttime low lighting. Very calm. I could put some art on those walls to spotlight as well, but not doing that just yet. And 2 long sconces from West Elm. For the mirror, I needed something narrow for the space and originally looked for something vintage, but most are bigger wood frames, and that's not ideal for a humid bathroom. This one is from Lulu in Georgia and mimics the painted trim I did around the archway. It's also a fairly narrow frame, so it's not total distraction on the wall. Originally, we had looked at putting wallpaper there, but with the bathroom moisture, that's also not ideal, and it's such a small space for like a full roll. So I reached back to my theater set painting days and managed a small mural that is sort of a general Art Deco styling without doing clean printed or repeated graphics that would make my life a nightmare. I do have plans to do more murals and trimming in the other rooms as well. It's kind of addicting. My last assignment was to deal with the curtains, shower, and window in here, which means a lot of me spending hours poring over fabric options with nothing being quite right. In the end, I went with a block shop textiles print that had been haunting me for months, but I just didn't have the right application for it that wouldn't require outrageous amounts of yardage. That was absolutely not in my budget. Looking at you, sunroom windows. But I mathed it all out and realized with the right careful cutting and some borders to get enough width, I could manage it here with only 3 yards. Considering that's the most visible part of the entire bathroom as you come up the stairs, I'm so glad that I went with something that really pops. For the rest of the bathroom, I don't have a ton of decor in here at this point because I'm not really sure it needs it. I did fill the corner with a very large palm that's much larger than I expected when it came in, but it works really well in the corner for now. Maybe at some point I'll have like a little stool or a little tiny seating space over there for makeup. I don't know, but it fills out the gap without me having to find a bunch of artwork or stands or a whole bunch of expensive stuff. And same thing goes with the area over the toilet, the little shelf with a few matching items, a bit here and there, and there's just already so much happening in this space. I don't feel like it really needs a ton of extra decor. Everything's just better off blending in a little bit, black and white or peach, keeping it fairly subtle while there's so much else happening. But I finally got to take my first real shower up here about a week ago, and let me tell you, after 6 months in the basement, it was magical. Truly, truly magical. Obviously, the project spilled over into a few other areas, but I haven't fully finished them all. The entryway got a soft blue paint that I'm eventually going to add a mural to. That's just a really big project. The stairs are being refinished and a new runner added. Again, a new skill that I'm working on, which may have happened actually by the time of this video. You'll get to see it pretty much at the same time I do, I guess. It was originally an indoor-outdoor gray carpet on the stairs, so I was not leaving that. It had been there a while. Upstairs, I transitioned it to greens that pulled from the bathroom fabric, which also meant I needed to finally get around to putting up some sort of shade on that window instead of a yard of fabric draped over a tension rod like I had for a year, which got so much sun it was already bleached a couple months in. A fabric that I had bought from Merchant and Mills with intentions to make a shirt was sacrificed because it just had all the right colors to bring the corner together. Don't worry, I did order more to replace it because it's so cute. I gotta. It does have a heavier light blocking lining, so it won't bleach out now. My very dumb but very determined self also decided to not only do a low transition between the ceiling and wall colors rather than putting it up in the corner, but to add a stripe, like a border, which isn't bad in theory until I point out the staircase intruding into that area. I taped a lot of things to a stick to reach out over that instead of, don't really have a ladder option. It's good enough. I'm going to take a much needed break before tackling the bedroom, however. So much of what is left in these spaces and transitional areas is just decor and maybe a cabinet over here in the hallway or refinishing the bench in the entryway. Stuff that I can do slowly and check local sales for vintage and antique furniture every day. I mean, I honestly would rather have lots of empty space for now and take the time to actually get to fill things with good intentions because I have so many things that I've gotten rid of over my lifetime that they just weren't good quality. They weren't going to last, and I don't have to do that right now. So I would much rather buy something really nice that's going to last me 20, 30, 40, I don't know, the rest of my life. So that's what I'm trying to do. Make this house something that I can live in for a really long time and not have to think about, because this has always been my dream. Refinishing an old house has always been something I've wanted to do since I was a little kid, and this is the first chance that I have ever had to be able to do that, and probably will be the only chance that I ever have to do that. I wanted to do it now so I could actually live in it, not 10 or 20 years down the road and then I have to move out right after or something. I want to enjoy this. And I want to be able to do this now and be done with it. So I just look forward to all the years of collecting and adding and making little changes, little updates. So many ideas, nowhere near enough time or energy, but it's getting there. It's no longer a big white and bright yellow box, with none of the interesting aspects about it actually being accented or celebrated like they should be. I mean, these doors are gorgeous, and they weren't. That's where I'm at now. Maybe I'll be back again in a few months or a year with more rooms finished, but you'll probably also just start seeing them around the channel regularly. That is my big goal, to have a space where I can film from lots of different angles, lots of different areas, lots of different aesthetics and styles. So look forward to seeing a lot more of this house in the future.